10 years ago, ISIS marched 21 Christian men out to their deaths on a Libyan beach. Their story of faith, sacrifice, and eternal hope in the face of terror is now being memorialized in a new animated film. February 2015, 21 men stood on the edge of eternity on this beach, dressed in orange, hands bound. They were given one choice: deny their faith or die. They chose death.
We heard about it as soon as it happened, basically. Once the video was broadcast, it spread like wildfire. It was a declaration by the Islamic State to put fear in the hearts of the Coptic Church and the Coptic people, whom they considered their favorite prey.
While the world saw their deaths, their families felt the loss of fathers, brothers, and sons.
For the families, it was devastating. I don't think they even considered themselves martyrs. They just saw that their husbands had just been killed, their fathers had just been killed, their brothers had just been killed. And so the families mourned greatly.
They were simple men, 20 Egyptians and one man from Ghana, working in Libya to support their families, then captured by ISIS.
I think for many people, we remember the images, at least the orange jumpsuits, where the 21 were beheaded, and we know that they did not recant their faith. What we don't know is that that came only after weeks, if not even months, of torture and other efforts to get those 21 to recant to their faith.
6 years ago, on a trip to Egypt, Mark Rogers learned about the 21 and decided to tell their story.
In the early 21st century, ISIS began a reign of terror in attempts to cleanse North Africa of Christians. One of their favorite prey? Egyptian Coptic Christians.
Bringing it to the screen proved to be a labor of faith and perseverance. The result is The 21, an animated film. Unlike traditional documentaries, the film uses sacred Coptic imagery, turning the martyrs' final moments into a visual prayer of faith. The producers chose traditional animation because of its unique ability to make challenging subjects approachable and use artwork central to the Coptic faith.
It's very tastefully done. It makes it very, very interesting when these ISIS terrorists occasionally think they see Jesus or see angels. There's like spiritual warfare crackling in both directions. How would you depict that in a documentary? You can't. So there's something very, very moving. I'm still trying to catch my breath because I was crying at the end.
Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus on The Chosen, is an executive producer.
I think I want people to be more aware of the sacrifices that so many Christians give, especially in other parts of the world. Martyrdom is not something that is common in the Western world, but in the Middle East and the Orient, there are legitimate physical threats to people on a daily basis.
They caught one guard, and he was the one that explained all the details of what happened to the men, how they were tortured, how they were caught, how they rehearsed the video 2 times before. They marched them on the beach. They had the cameras rolling, and they prepared their filming, and then the 3rd time was when they were beheaded.
Tortures included being sprayed with cold water, not letting them sleep in the cold of winter. It included having them drag wet sand through the desert until they collapsed. It included burning them with irons, emotional torture, isolation, so all kinds of different tortures, physical and emotional.
As head of Coptic Orphans, Riyadh and her ministry were already working in the village of the 21.
And so now that there are new fatherless children, we were able to embrace them and enroll them into our programs so that we could walk with them the journey of healing, the journey of support, both financial and emotional support.
She now knows them as family.
They are resilient. You know, you would think that they were traumatized and still will be traumatized, but yet they have a peace, they have a joy that, in all honesty, contagious when you see how much they know that Christ is with them, that Christ is the one who is giving them that peace. And they are thankful. I was sitting in the middle of all the widows when they were seeing it for the very first time. And the comments of a mother almost reliving her sense with having lost her son, but at the same time she says, "You have made it so we can lift our heads high."
It was a very impactful film, but God gave us comfort, and we know that they testified to Christ, and God gave them a lot of strength as well. You have to remember these are young men, and they're not very well off, but look how strong their faith was. They didn't know how they were going to get back to Egypt. They didn't know anything in front of them, but all they knew was that God was with them.
I felt tearful, and it really impacted me. But nevertheless, it was very beautiful.
Do you forgive the men of ISIS?
Yes, of course, because they're the reason that these martyrs went to heaven in the first place.
The film poses a question that I think is worthy to each and every one of us that are followers of Christ. How would we respond to that call? What would we do in their shoes? Could we be as faithful? And, I find myself challenged by the question, and I pray the answer is yes, and in my heart it's yes. And I pray, I will go to my grave with the same confession of Jesus' name on my lips. But the question remains, could you do it? Would you do it? Yeah. What if you were them?
Oh, I would love to see every single Christian around the world to watch this movie. It's inspirational, it gives us hope, and it shows us the power of faith in our Lord Jesus Christ. I'm praying that indeed it will spread like wildfire.